A recent study found that a ketogenic diet caused pre-diabetes in mice, and a lot of nutrition outlets are questioning whether keto causes diabetes in humans. It doesn't. Problem is, mice evolved to eat almost exclusively carbohydrate-rich grains and are a notoriously bad way to study high-fat diets. A lot of human studies have found that ketosis is great for diabetes, to the point where diabetics can get off their medication entirely. However, long-term keto may not be a good idea because it can compromise your metabolic flexibility. Studies show that long-term ketosis can cause reversible insulin resistance. Cyclical ketosis, where you load up on carbs once a week, is the best way to feel great all the time and become resilient and metabolically flexible. There's a rumor going around that a keto diet causes diabetes. Part of it is thanks to this study, which found that mice fed a ketogenic diet developed insulin resistance, a precursor to diabetes, and couldn't tolerate reintroducing carbs into their diet. A few prominent health and nutrition news outlets have used the study as evidence that keto may cause diabetes, and say you're better off avoiding the high-fat, low-carb diet. 2. Here's the short version of this article up front: keto does not cause diabetes. In fact, several human studies have found that keto reverses diabetes to the point where diabetics can stop taking insulin. More on that below. 3, 4, 5. That said, long-term ketosis without any carbs does contribute to insulin resistance, and it's not the best way to boost your performance. That's why Bulletproof promotes a cyclical ketogenic diet that puts you in and out of ketosis, with 1 day a week of low glycemic, non-junk carb loading. At the end of this article, you'll learn exactly how you can balance ketosis and carbs to maximize your metabolic flexibility. Metabolic flexibility, by the way, is the body's ability to shift back and forth between burning carbs, or glucose, and fatty acids for fuel. First, let's take a closer look at the claim that keto can lead to diabetes. Does a keto diet really cause diabetes? At first glance, it seems like there's a chance keto really does lead to diabetes. The study 6 people have been citing lately went like this. The researchers took 3 groups of mice and fed them either a high-carb diet, a keto diet, or an obesogenic diet, a high-carb and high-fat diet designed to make mice obese. The low-fat mice did just fine, but both the keto and obesogenic mice developed glucose intolerance, an inability to process carbs well, after just 3 days on their new diets. The keto mice also developed insulin resistance in their livers. Insulin resistance is the first step toward diabetes. Relying on this data from mice, it doesn't look good for keto. And it's not just this study, either. Several other studies have found that keto leaves rodents unable to process carbs, 7, leads to insulin resistance, 8, and, more long-term, causes non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is when your liver accumulates lots of fat and begins to shut down. 9, 10, triglycerides and inflammation go way up, too. 11. But before you give up your bulletproof coffee and sink your teeth into a bagel, let's talk about something all these studies have in common: they're in rodents. And rodents are very different from people. Even more alarmingly, scientists seem to believe that all types of fat are the same, when we all know that a high margarine diet will do very different things than a high coconut oil diet, even though they are both high-fat diets. Mouse chow doesn't usually use high-quality fats. People do much better with keto than mice do. The problem with all this research is that mice are notoriously bad models for high-fat diets. Check out this scientific statement from a nutritional study back in 2012. As a model of human obesity and insulin resistance, mice suffer from the severe, if underemphasized, limitation that high-fat diets do not generally cause these conditions in humans, unless high carbohydrate is also present. 12. In other words, high-fat diets make mice fat and pre-diabetic, but they don't do the same thing to people. They do just the opposite. Keto decreases glucose intolerance and stabilizes insulin so well that a lot of diabetics can get off their medication entirely after switching to a keto diet. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, keto functionally cures their diabetes. Keto decreases inflammation and improves brain function, so much so that Alzheimer's patients who switch to a keto diet actually begin to recover their brain function, which up until now was unheard of. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, so there's that. Dale Bredeson and Mark Hyman have discussed these on the Bulletproof Radio podcast. Check out Dale's episode here, and Mark's here. Clearly, humans do not have the same issues with ketosis that mice do. They don't get diabetes and they don't get systemic inflammation. But if you do keto long-term, you may compromise your metabolic flexibility by raising your insulin resistance. More articles from Bulletproof.